Poilievre is a liberal light. For Trump, dealing with Carney or dealing with Poilievre is the same. Poilievre is more against Trump, and he wants to go ahead and impose more tariffs. He tried to pander to that leftist electorate, but it is time to be serious. This country will be destroyed by mass immigration.
Why is he loved by his party?
Because when he did campaign, he was speaking like a real conservative.
The impression to me is like you're running to daddy to protect from a bully.
If we want to have a deal, we need to put that on the table. Carney is the globalist in chief.
What does it mean to be a Canadian?
Saying that we are putting Canada first, it's not a slogan for me, it's a reality. But for Poilievre, it's an empty slogan.
I still don't know what it is to be a Canadian. What is it to be a Canadian? That is just absolutely embarrassing.
And I understand Trump, and I'm ready to work with your president. We will do what is right. We are the only hope for Canada.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever saw. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about it.
I don't think I've ever said this before.
All right, so here we go. So, guys, a few weeks ago, I went on a rant about Pierre Poilievre in Canada. And I called out the fact that he doesn't want to go sit with anybody. He's just waiting for this thing to happen to him, and he's automatically going to be handed everything over. And in the last couple days, he's made a few comments about Trump and retweeted a video that we'll watch here together and get a reaction to. While that happened, a lot of Canadians were not happy with me. A lot were very furious with me. But a lot were also in agreement saying, you know what, please hold them accountable and challenge them to get out there. But throughout that time, I ran a poll, and a name was brought up to me. And they said, you have to look into Maxime Bernier. And I said, okay, great. I started watching videos, content. We started following each other. And the next thing you know, we have Maxime Bernier here from the People Party of Canada. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm very pleased to be here. That's a nice opportunity for me because, as you may know, in Canada, we may be in elections, couple of days. And so I'm traveling across the country, and I'm not afraid to do podcasts, and very pleased to be with you.
I respect the fact that you're doing it. I think one of the things we watched in the U.S., what happened was that Bobby Kennedy went to all the podcasts. Yeah. Vivek went to all the podcasts. Trump, with his son Barron, saying, hey, Dad, let's go. He went to all the podcasts, right? And Kamala didn't go.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis went on ours. We had a great conversation, but some would have said, maybe you should have gone earlier, right? And a lot of Nikki Haley didn't want to go. These guys didn't want to go. They thought they were above it. And when I called out Pierre, a lot of Canadians says, you don't understand. If he goes on a conservative podcast, what the left is going to do, the left is going to attack him if he goes on Rogan, if he goes on this, he goes on. That's why in Canada it's very different than America. So walk me through the fear that conservatives have in Canada being so frightened of liberals holding them hostage.
Poilievre and the conservative, and I said that long time ago, that they're conservative in name only. They are the Reno Canadians, conservative in name only. They are afraid. Why? Because also in Canada, we are mainstream media, Radio-Canada in French, CTV, CBC. They are all leftist. So, and actually, we don't have Fox News in Canada on the other side. So for me, the Canadian population has been manipulated by the leftist media. So Poilievre is afraid of the reaction coming from the leftist media. But, he must understand, as a politician, we are in 2025, and the future is with independent media, podcasters, and you must go out there and explain your platform. But he doesn't want to do that also because he's afraid of the reaction, yes, of the mainstream media, and also because he cannot have a discussion right now. We don't know what he believes in right now. He's keeping secret his platform. We'll know that during the election. So now he's speaking only with slogan And for me, it's empty slogan. And, there's a lot of people real conservative base are not happy with him because now he's doing campaign not against the Liberals, but against Trump. And you must know that in Canada, they did a survey before the presidential election, and 65% of Canadians said in that survey that they will have voted for Harris and the Democrats. So for Poilievre, he tried to pander to that leftist electorate and try to have their support. By doing that, is going away from real conservative values. And the real conservative values, free market values, are not so popular today in Canada. So we need to be out there and to speak about our ideas. And that's what I'm doing as politicians. And that's why I left. And I quit the Conservative Party of Canada in 2018. And I said that this party is morally and intellectually corrupt because they won't promote conservative ideas. And by doing that, they're giving credibility to the leftist narrative. And that's what Poilievre is doing now. And people are not happy with him. Like you're not happy with him because he's not doing his job as a real conservative, and he's not.
Yeah, to me, it's the reason why I respect Trump as much as I do, as well as Bobby Kennedy. Anytime, any place, anywhere, and not afraid of the leftist media.
Yeah.
And in America, you got to respect that.
Yeah.
And when you looked at Kamala or some of the other guys, it wasn't anytime, any place, anywhere. It just was. It had to be controlled. Here's the questions you get to ask me. You better ask this. Nothing more than this. So I want to play the clip you and I were talking about earlier. This is Pierre playing a clip. Rob, if you can go to my Twitter account. Go up a little bit, keep going. I think it's the one two above. Go two above. No, the other way, Rob. Go two above, right there. Go down to Ben & Jerry. It's right there. So go to Pierre's if you could, and let me just first read what he says, and then I want to get your commentary on it. So he says, last night, President Trump endorsed Mark Carney. Why? Because as Trump said, he's easier to deal with and knows that I will be a tough negotiator and always put Canada first. Carney is weak and would cave to Trump's demands, just like he did when he moved his company headquarters from Canada to New York City. Canadians don't want a weak and conflicted leader. They want a strong prime minister who will put Canada first. So now let me play the clip. Here's Trump. Rob, if you can play the clip of Trump, what he says here. Go for it.
Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal.
Isn't that going to be...
So when I posted this, Rob, go back to my tweet because I want to show you what people said. Okay, just go to the bottom of the comments to show what Canadians said. So some people said, right there. If you can go lower. I've been to Canada. Okay. Maxime Bernier is the only politician in Canada that can actually understand this. Pierre has never had an actual job outside of politics. He's a World Economic Forum uniparty shield through and through. He's a useless, whatever politician. He's no leader. You're wrong here, Pat. Trump is doing Poilievre a favor by saying he'd prefer liberals. This is an endorsement for the PP. His policies do exactly what Trump wants. Energy, pipelines, oil. Canada's got a lot of those things. Poilievre and Carney are hood ornaments. Do you have any suggestions? On a serious note, thanks for saying PM and not governor. Patrick, I think Trump understands this endorsement, especially framed in a term of being a pushover will hurt Carney. He is mitigating the side effect that his tariff policy was driving up liberal support. Pierre has to posture to keep that illusion alive. Who's right here?
Yeah, I think that, President Trump is right because Poilievre right now and the Liberals, Carney, are the same on the most important issues for the future of our country. And we can go on these issues later. And right now, for me, it's a LibCon party. And so, instead of, and people in Canada now, if you look in the polls, again, it's a bad news, but the Liberals are ahead right now, and the election may be called as soon as in a couple of days. Why? Because Poilievre is a liberal light. And instead of, voting conservative, liberal light, they will vote for the real liberal. And the real liberal is Carney. So for Trump, dealing with Carney or dealing with Poilievre is the same. And so we are very different as a political party. We are this populist political party, a little bit like Trump. And on a lot of policies, our party is in line with Trump. On tariffs, like we can have a discussion about that. We have a different position than Poilievre, but Poilievre is doing the war against Trump using tariffs and imposing tariffs and taxes on us Canadians. And for him, like I told you in the beginning, because Trump is not popular in Canada, and I think he think that by being against Trump, that will help him in Canada. But the most important is the policies, and he's very disappointing on that. And
okay, so let's go through that. So let's take, what percentage of Canada are conservatives? Conservatives, specifically conservatives. What would you say?
Well, you have Western Canada, Alberta. Alberta, Western Canada. Right now there's about a big 40% of the population
that are conservatives.
That are ready to vote conservative.
Okay, so of the 40%, and by the way, conservative,
including us, we are the real conservative.
For sure. You and Pierre, whatever party, those two, conservative party, you're saying there's about 40% of them. Of the 40% of voters in Canada that are conservative, okay, what percentage of them like Trump?
If you look, they did a survey in Canada for people who voted for the Conservative and will vote for Poilievre. 25% of his base like Trump. 25% of his voters.
Got it.
For me, it's about 50% of my voters who like Trump. So, and now by doing that, his goal is to split the Liberal vote, to go ahead and to split the Liberal vote. But it's at a big risk of losing his base, 25% of his base. And so for us, we can grow there, but for us, our growth will come from non-voters. There's 40% of the population who didn't vote at the last election. And they don't vote because they don't like these establishment political parties and Poilievre and Carney and Trudeau. So we are the option, the new option for them. So our growth can be coming from these non-voters that may come and vote for us.
Okay, so for his base, out of the 40%, you said 25% like Trump, 75% don't like Trump. Okay, from your base, 50% like...
at least 50%.
Okay.
But we don't do any polling. We don't do any focus
You're
group.
assuming. So it could be 60, 70%.
Yeah.
Okay, from the conservatives that don't like Trump, why don't they like... What about Trump do they not like in his policies?
But now it's the tariff. Trump, because of the mainstream media, they're saying, Trump is against Canada. Trump wants to, invade our country. Trump wants our country to be the 51st state. So they're nationalists, and they said, and they believe that. The mainstream media and the liberals and the conservative like that, like the fact that Trump said, we will be, or we may be, or that will be great if we are the 51st state. They like it because now they say, no, we are defending the sovereignty of our country. But all that, it's just, when Trump is saying that, for me, he's not serious. He's just, having fun against our leaders. He knows that we don't like it. He's using that, telling our prime minister, the governor of Canada. It's, I did read his book, The Art of a Deal, and that's the way he's doing deals. Discredit his opponent, and he's doing that and using that. But in Canada, it's good for the Liberals. They are saying, we are the defender of the country. But they are not. Their policy will be very bad for the country. And I said politically, and when I'm doing interviews, that we are the only hope for Canada if our policies are not adopted, or not be adopted in Parliament. This country is going nowhere. We need to change that, and we have bold policies that are in line. And when I'm saying that we are putting Canada first and our country first, it's not a slogan for me. It's a reality. But for Poilievre, it's an anti-slogan.
So in 2018, when you left the Conservative Party, who was Poilievre? Who was he at the time? Did he have credibility? Was he famous? Did he already have influence or no?
No. So for me, I'm not a career politician. I did work 19 years in the financial sector in Montreal. I did good money over there. 2006, I jumped into politics with Harper, and I was a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Industry, and Poilievre was elected at that time. Poilievre was elected at 24 years old, never had a real boss. He's, for the last 20 years, his job is to be a politician in Parliament.
So he's a lifelong politician.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No private sector experience.
Ever?
No.
Before 24, nothing.
24 years old, I think the first job was working in an MP office in Ottawa.
NPR office in Ottawa.
Yeah, working with a member of parliament in Ottawa, in his office.
Got it. So it's always been politics. He has zero free enterprise, free market experience.
Zero.
Okay.
So this guy is doing politics by survey, focus group, and, he tried to please everybody. But when you do that, you're not able to win.
Can you give an example of that? When you say he tries to please everybody, what examples do you have?
On mass immigration. In Canada, we have mass immigration right now, and that's destroying our social fabric. We had more than 1.2 million foreigners coming to our country.
Saw that.
And for a country of 40 million people, that's a lot. Actually, the growth of our population last year was 3.2%, and the average growth of population in the Western countries was 0.2%. And 97% of our population growth is coming from immigration. So if you go like that for a couple of years, that's the replacement, theory, but in practice in Canada. So for him, he's not speaking about that. He's okay with mass immigration like the Liberals. And we are not. We are the only party that is saying we need to have a pause on immigration, a moratorium on immigration, because, that is affecting economically Canadians. Our standard of living is going down. Inflation is up, and we have ghettos in our country. People are not integrating into our society. So it's a big mess, and we need to have that pause. So what I'm telling you is pandering to the ethnic communities like Trudeau. So Poilievre is doing the same game, because in some ridings in Canada, to win and to have a majority, in Toronto, for example, there's a lot of ridings over there, a seat over there, more than in Alberta. So, and that region, there's a lot of immigrants, and they want to have more of their friends coming to Canada. So Poilievre is pandering to them to be sure to win these ridings, knowing that the majority of the population don't want that mass immigration anymore. But he's not listening to them, because for him, he's looking riding by riding, and he needs to seat by seat, which seat he will be able to win to be in government.
So it's interesting you're saying that. While I'm pulling this up, by the way, in 2018, who was he? Somebody in 2018?
In
2018, when you left the concert, was he an upcoming guy or not yet?
Not yet. No.
When did he become a superstar?
Only 2 years ago, when he decided to run. Because the other leader, O'Toole, was a real leftist. The
Conservative Party.
I was in politics in 2006, and 2015, Harper didn't win. 2017, we had a leadership contest in the Conservative Party. I did run. I had 49% of the vote, didn't win. Scheer was the leader at that time. I resigned from the Conservative Party in 2018, and Scheer was the leader in 2019. We had a general election. The Liberal won. And after Scheer, they had another leadership contest, the Conservative. They put O'Toole, and O'Toole was a real, leftist guy. And after that, they put Poilievre, and Poilievre was a star because he was good with videos. And I must admit, he's a good communicator. And so he was good. And during the leadership contest, he was speaking like a real conservative to be sure to win the base. So he was speaking like a real conservative. But after that, when he won, he went to the left and to try to please to more people in Canada. And so answering your question, he became to be popular maybe only three years ago.
So Aaron O'Toole
was a leader before him.
And then it was Andrew Scheer.
I lost my leadership against him.
You lost your leadership against him.
In 2017.
So when they chose him, you said, I'm out. And you're starting your own thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you. 49% of the members of the Conservative Party did vote for me. So after that leadership contest, I did work 15 months with Andrew Scheer as my leader. But I had a private meeting with him, and 15 months later, he told me, and I want him to take some of my policies and ideas. They were very popular with the membership. So we had a meeting, and he said, Maxime, you're right. Your ideas are very popular with the membership of the Conservative Party of Canada, but I won't take any of your ideas because now I want to be Prime Minister of Canada, and your ideas are not popular with the population. So at the next election in 2019, forget your ideas. So that's why
He's saying that to you face to face in a one-on-one meeting.
Yeah.
Is this public information when he said this to you?
Yeah, but I'm putting that public.
You've never said this before. So in one-on-one, he's telling you because your policies are not popular.
I won't take any of your...
Because he wants to be a prime minister.
Yeah, and they're doing politics by polling and survey. So and then I said, I don't have to waste my time here. They are not, and that's why I resigned in 2018 after 15 months when he won the leadership. When he told me that, I resigned. I said, and I took these ideas and we created the People's Party based on these ideas. And, this party is growing now. But they don't want to speak about something that is not that popular today. So that's why they're conservative in name only.
How close is he to Pierre?
Scheer now?
Scheer and
he's number 3 with him right now.
So they're close? They're
close friends, yeah.
Okay, so they're close friends. Again, I'm trying to get smarter. I don't know Canadian politics. Yeah. O'Toole, is he close with Pierre or no?
O'Toole resigned. He's not a member of parliament anymore. He's in the private sector, so forget it.
So is he any name in politics in Canada or not really? Nobody mentions O'Toole.
No.
He doesn't have endorsement.
Right,
he doesn't carry weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is the last time you and Pierre had interaction together?
When I was a conservative. So 2015.
How was that interaction with
him?
Good.
Pierre and I, we had good conversation. And at that time, when I was a conservative, he was pushing in the caucus privately conservative reform. But, now because he's the leader, and so, he forgot all that. But I must admit that, Stephen Harper was prime minister and I was working with him. Stephen Harper was a libertarian and less government, but he did the biggest deficit of the history of our country during the financial crisis. And so Stephen Harper had a majority, and he didn't use the majority to implement bold reforms. And Stephen Harper was a good manager of a big fat government, and Poilievre will be the same if he's prime minister.
Is Stephen Harper respected and loved in Canada or no?
Yeah, now after he resigned, and I think so. Yeah, with the Conservatives in Canada. And Stephen Harper is giving advice to Poilievre right now.
And Poilievre is following his footsteps.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so all right, so that's good to know. So a couple things here when you said immigration. I want to show you something with immigration which was shocking to me when I pulled up the data. So I looked at what countries most residents, new permanent residents, are coming into Canada. Because a number starts around 2022. Rob, if you can show up the data that shows the spike in immigration, it's that one right there. You look at this, the net international migration from 1952 to 2023, you're getting some people coming in, maybe 200,000 on average, 100,000 on average. All of a sudden, boom, 1.2 million. And I looked at the numbers. In 2022, the number one country that immigrants came in from, 27% was Indians, 118. China's number 2, then Afghanistan, Nigeria, Philippines, France, Pakistan, Iran, U.S., then Syria. This is 2022. 2023, India, China, Philippines, Afghanistan, Nigeria, Pakistan, Cameroon, Eritrea, Iran, U.S. 2024, India, Philippines, China, Cameroon, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, France. Okay. Then I pulled up a number just to kind of see. In Canada, in 1991, according to the Canadian census, the Muslim population in Canada was 0.9%. The Muslim population today in Canada is 5%. Okay. That's based on your census that you have.
You're right about it.
And then the other number that was also shocking is in 2023, population grew by 1.27 million in Canada. Of the people that grew, the number of kids that you guys had that contributed to the 1.27 million was only 2.4%. 97.6% were people that came in from other countries. That's not necessarily a growth that some people would call that an invasion. So
a replacement.
Right. Replacement could be one of them. So how different are your policies versus Poilievre when it comes onto this?
Poilievre is okay with mass immigration. His number right now is 250 foreigners every year, starting if he's prime minister. 250,000. For us, it's zero. No more. We are not able to integrate them into our society, and that's destroying our social fabric. The countries that you just quote, a lot of them are not sharing Western civilization values. And we don't do any screening. We must change that. When we will reopen to immigration, we need to have a face-to-face interview with them. We don't have that anymore. We need to be sure that they share Canadian values. In Canada, don't forget also, we have a legislation in Canada, and the federal government is promoting multiculturalism. So we are saying to people, come to our country, keep your culture, and, everything is okay. If you don't integrate into our society, it's okay. So we have Indian ghettos in BC, Burnaby. We have ghettos also in Brampton, Ontario. And there's no incentive for them to come and to integrate into our society. And actually, before that, we were asking them to speak at least English or French. We have two official languages in Canada, English and French. That was a condition a couple of years ago to come to Canada, to be an immigrant. And now it's not anymore. So they don't speak the language. They're going in a ghetto. They don't integrate. That's changing the social fabric of our country. But Poilievre won't speak about that. He's pandering to these ethnic communities to have votes in different ridings and more seats. So that's what he's doing. That is part of his strategy, because now, all these immigrants that are coming, they're foreigners, they will vote conservative or they will vote liberal. But if you do a big survey, 65% of the population is okay to end mass immigration in Canada. And also a majority of immigrants, but older immigrants, people who came here 15 years ago because it was tough for them to come here. They had to speak English and French, and they have to prove that they will have a job. It was tough. It took them maybe years. And now they're looking at that. Everybody can come in Canada with no screening, nothing. It's unfair, and they don't want that, and they're right about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by the way, when you're speaking about to the audience in Canada, what comparison are you making? What comp? Meaning, let's just say if I'm buying a house, and I say I'm willing to buy this house for $900,000, but Mr. Realtor, what are the comps on the property? The guy next door sold for $820. The house next door sold for $817. The house next door that's similar size to you sold $805. It's not really a $900,000 house. It's really an $815,000 house. Okay, great. I'm getting comps. What country, when you guys are looking what Canada can turn into if it goes this way the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what do you see happening if they don't change their immigration policies?
If we don't change our immigration policy, our standard of living will go down. Right now, the impact of mass immigration on housing, like you just said,
it's scary what's going on there with real estate.
Yeah, it's scary. A young family cannot buy a house downtown Toronto, downtown Montreal, or downtown Vancouver. And the solution for that, it's a question of, supply and demand. And my solution is just cut the demand. All these people need a roof, and you need to stop that. But for Poilievre, he said we need to build more houses. But actually, 10 years ago, we were building in Canada about 250,000 houses a year, 10 years ago. And now we are still building 250,000 houses a year. And Statistic Canada said that just to match the demand, we need to build 700,000 houses a year. So that's not the solution for the housing crisis in our country. The solution is to have that moratorium on immigration. And I'm not speaking about, the fact that the standard of, the pie, the economic pie is growing in Canada because you have so many people, but the GDP per capita is going down. So our piece of the pie is smaller. Yeah, because the population is growing faster than the GDP. So all that mass immigration, created, the fact that we are poor for the last 10 years, we didn't grow. Our GDP per capita didn't grow. So that's why people are okay with ending mass immigration. But I'm the only one who's speaking about that in Canada.
Yeah, and the question I want to come back to this because Canada's number 2 country in lumber in the world. I think you guys are behind Russia.
Yeah.
And the average house right now is $786,000. Who the hell can afford that?
Yeah.
Let's come back to that. But I want to talk to you still on case studies. When I was looking at what Poland did, Dominic Tarczynski, where he said nobody can come here, they're not for immigration, and they don't want to go by the demands that EU has with what happened with UK, of course, UK Brexit. There's a fellow who had a video that went viral in Canada talking about Sharia law. I want to share this with you. I want to get your thoughts to see how people in Canada feel about this. Is this even a concern that other families are bringing up? Rob, if you don't mind playing this clip, it'd be great. Go for it.
By 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? Actually, are you going to oppose Sharia even then? We have families, we are making babies. You're not. Our population is going down the slump. One day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada. Right in your face.
You say that you want Sharia law to displace Canadian law. That doesn't sound very respectful.
Not in majority, you wouldn't have any other option, my friend. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality. The gay people are doing is against the commandments of God.
We have Canadian law here, and you say that you want Sharia law to displace Canadian law. That doesn't sound very respectful.
Not in majority,
You can pause
wouldn't
it
have
right
any
there,
other
Rob.
option.
Is this a concern in Canada that Canada can turn into the next UK of the West?
Not now. Not now, but when I'm speaking, I'm telling that to people, like in France, there's no go zone over there. In UK also, because of mass immigration and the non-integration of these immigrants. And but it's coming more and more. People are fed up more and more.
About this specific topic, because the Muslim population in Canada grown from 1991 till now from 0.9% to 5%.
Yeah.
That's 500%. That's a big growth that they've had. Is that a concern? Because those
it's becoming a concern. For example, in Toronto, now they're a pressure group. The Muslim community are pressuring, provincial governments to adopt some, laws that will, financial law that will be in line with their philosophy to be, as you know, they cannot pay interest. So there's kind of an arrangement and some regulations at the provincial level to allow them to be able to have, a mortgage without paying any interest. So they are coming more and more influential politically. The answer is yes. But in the main population, that's not a real concern. The real concern is mass immigration now. There's no focus. But we need, radical Islam is present in Canada. That ideology is there. We need to fight that for sure.
What is this, Rob? They just pulled up. This
is a chart showing from 2001 to 2021, just in 20 years, that the Muslim population in Canada has more than doubled from 2.0% to 4.9% across the country.
Yeah.
How is crime in Canada? I'm curious.
Oh, my God. Very bad. Very bad because for Trudeau, he was not tough on crimes. And, we did pass legislation when I was a conservative at that time to be really tough on crime. But now, crimes in big cities are, I don't have the data, but if you look at the statistic, they're double than what they were 10 years ago. So, yeah, you can see that in Canada.
It's doubled from, you said, from...
Yeah, the last 10 years. Yeah.
And this, okay, so is that a...
And that's a concern, actually. And that's why I'm very pleased what President Trump did. President Trump decided to actually...
Wow.
Look at that, yeah.
When did Trudeau get elected?
2015.
Look at that.
Yeah, 2015.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Trump, what I like from Trump, he said, protect your borders. Be sure to fight crimes and all these drug traffickers. And now, after 9 years, Trudeau decided and the Liberal government decided to do that. But we needed Trump to push our government to work for Canadians. The first role of a leader of a country is to protect your population. The government, the first role of a government is the safety of their own citizens. And the Liberals did zero yet the last 9 years. And now, because of Trump, now the federal government is investing and fighting crimes. It's new, but it's coming. But look, yeah, that's the after.
And by the way, you mentioned Stephen Harper, right?
Yeah.
You said Stephen Harper. So Stephen Harper
was Prime Minister
from 06 till 15.
Yes.
Right? Go back to that chart, Rob. So if you go from 2006, declined from what it was to what did he do to lower crime the way that he did in Canada? That's very impressive.
Yeah, we passed legislation, and actually, but the bad thing is all our legislation that we passed at that time, minimum sentences and things like that, the Supreme Court of Canada said it's unconstitutional. So a couple of years later, these legislation are not in force anymore, and Trudeau was happy with that, and look what happened.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to real estate. Real estate in Canada, you said the current, we've been building 250,000 on average, I think the number was, whatever it was 10 years ago, it's what you're doing today.
It's the same number
It's
today.
the same number today, yes. But the average property value right now in Canada, we looked at the number, was $786,000 for single-family homes. That amazes me.
Yeah, in big cities, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Not in little cities, but yeah, that's
what
very
does it say here? Right there. So if you look at the average selling price of a home in Canada increased by 0.1%, year over year, 709. The average selling price of a single family home in Canada increased to 786. When you look at the amount of supply and things that you have, why hasn't somebody in the last 10 years emphasized investing in building more to be able to lower pricing so when a new family is getting married, having kids, they can't afford to buy $786,000.
And actually, there's a link also with our birth rate, because they did a survey with young family, and one of the reasons why they decided not to have kids, it's because they want to have a home before. And actually, that was personally, I had 2 daughters, and yes, me and my ex-wife decided to buy a house before having kids. So they cannot buy a house and they're not having kids. So that's another relations. But why, if you ask me why, we must ask the Liberal government. There's a lot of regulations also in big cities. And so there's no incentive for provinces to cut down on regulations. And it's if you want to build something in a big city in Canada and to have all the permits, it can take months. So that's another big problem that we have.
Rob, can you pull up the birth rate in Canada? I just pulled it up right now. I'm looking at it. Canada's fertility rate is amongst the lowest in the world, placing it in the lowest of the low category.
Yeah.
With a rate of 1.26. Right now you have it at 133. I have it at 1.26 children born per woman in 2023. That's a 2022 rate. Joining countries like South Korea, Spain, Italy, and Japan.
So the logic for mass immigration. They're saying our birth rate is going down. Let's bring all these people. But these people are not young. Usually they're about an average of 30 years old or something like that. They're not so young, and so that's not the solution. The solution is easy. Cut that mass immigration, do all these bold reforms, balance the budget, cut taxes, being sure to give more money in the pockets of these families, and they would be able to have a kid if they want to.
Yeah, that is scary to think about the birth rate. By the way, I just pulled up a number to see if it can break down what percentage. It's not breaking down percentage, it's telling me numbers on what age they are, the people that are coming in. But birth rate, let's go to that.
They're not so young. So Statistic Canada, I think they did a survey about that. If you like, Statistic Canada average age of immigrants, something like that.
Canada, 64, 25 to 54. The median age of immigrants.
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
That's
47 years old.
Yeah, that's not the solution.
They're not going to have kids, 47-year-olds.
No.
Wow.
And you told us the country where they're coming from. They're not coming from Europe or from, America or other countries. They're coming from, that's why I tweeted and I said that, when you import third world people coming from third world countries, your country will become a third world country. And that's what is happening. That's changing the social fabric of our country. And that's why populist movement in UK, in France, in Germany are growing because of immigration. And that's the same thing here in Canada.
Yeah, I just pulled this up. I asked the question saying, why does Canada have such a low birth rate? And it says economic factors.
Yeah.
Housing in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal.
Yeah.
Job market. Many young Canadians struggle for job security, high student debt.
But now with mass immigration, we are importing cheap labor. And so that's a problem. Now, you said in India, we had a lot of fake students coming from India. They came here, they had a fake diploma. And usually when you are an international student, you come here, you study, and you leave after that. You're going back to your country of origin. They don't want to leave. They use that to be permanent residents. And after their diploma, they want to stay here. And Poilievre and Trudeau said, okay, we'll give you the permanent residency. So these people are cheating. They don't want to go back to their country. And Poilievre and the Liberals are saying, it's okay, we'll give you a gift. You don't respect our legislation, but we will give you a gift. We will give you permanent residency. That's the position of these.
Is that really his position?
Yeah.
Is really Poilievre's position is permanent residency for anybody that's come the last 30 years of getting permanent residence?
That's to solve the international students that are coming to Canada. They want to stay, and he's pandering to them. And look, international students from India.
What's the title say, Rob?
I'm not sure if this is the right article.
Cut population, liberal signaling, immigration, the radical out of control NDP liberal government has destroyed our 7%. Yeah, I want to know what he says about making them permanent residents.
Yeah, he said that for the students. I don't know for the international students.
So he said he's going to make
the India international students. They will have the right. He said they will have the right to work here more than 10 hours a week, and they will have the right to stay here after that. So that's what he wants. But actually, these and you can find a video of me speaking with an international students in PI, and they did protests all across the country. And I said in his face, after your diploma, if you don't leave the country, we will deport you. And I said that, I don't know, a video from this one here.
Can I hear this? Rob, hang on, pause it because I want to put the... Go for it.
Now you can stay, but when they're going to be expired...
We will see at that moment.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if some of you have their permit that are expired...
Nobody standing here is illegal. They have their permits.
But in your group of 100 people...
Nobody is expired. If they would have been expired, they would have been deported.
Okay, but they will be deported when it be expired.
This is why. No, they won't be deported.
You just said that when it's going to be expired, they will be deported.
They will be legalizing their stay. No deportation will be needed in that moment.
But we will need deportation.
That's why you need to have full knowledge. You are a leader. I think you should have a full knowledge before you gathering here.
I have a full knowledge. I'm saying when the permit is expired, you must be deported.
You're saying my permit is expired. It isn't.
No, if it's not, but it will be in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months.
I can extend it.
But I hope they won't, because we don't need
they
you.
Will.
No, we don't need you here in this country.
How can you decide it?
Because
for example,
there's Canadians, there's young Canadians that can work at Tim Hortons.
Then they can. I'm not working.
Unbelievable, the level of audacity to say that.
They think that they have, the right to stay here.
Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. And where was that fellow from? Where was he from?
India.
He's from India.
Oh, yeah.
That's number one, where it's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what would you
And
do?
also, don't forget, universities and colleges are using that for financing their operation because they're paying more fees to come here than Canadians. It's more expensive for them than Canadians. So actually, some universities are very happy with that. It's a way because the federal government and provincial governments are cutting funding to universities. So they use the international students to finance their operations. So that's also, and I told you, university, no, you won't use that trick to be able to have more money. Just raise your fees if you want to.
So what is your solution on two things? What are you going to do to fix immigration, and what are you going to do to increase birth rate? Because the economy is what you got to address for families to decide to want to have kids. How are you going to address those two issues?
So first, the moratorium on immigration, no more immigrants. And so that's important. Second, that's all about the economy. So we want to balance the budget in Canada. We can do that in 1 year. We will cut foreign aid, $8 billion. We'll save that. We'll cut corporate subsidies, $10 billion. Our deficit in Canada this year is $62 billion. So we can achieve that. Poilievre is not speaking about that because it's not popular to speak about cutting. We will cut. We'll have a smaller government in Canada. We'll have our Canadian Dodge. I said that in 2020 that, we need to have a department of downsizing the government. I said that in 2020. So we will do that. We'll balance the budget. We'll lower taxes. We'll have a flat tax on business at 15%. We have 5 tax brackets in Canada right now on your income. We'll go down to 3, and the goal is go down to 1. So reforming the federal government, downsizing the federal government, respecting our constitution. Right now, the federal government is a big fat government interfering in provincial jurisdiction and provincial autonomy. We'll do that. We'll be able. And we have also a capital gains tax in Canada. We will cut that. No more capital gains tax in Canada. So lowering taxes, and we don't have a real free trade in Canada. This country has been built in 1867. And the reason that we exist as a country first was to have an economic union in Canada, to be able to compete against you guys in the South. That was the idea, to have an economic union. And now we don't have that. There's trade barriers between provinces. So we need to have a real economic union. We need to work about that. We need also to develop our natural resources. In my own province, in Quebec, there's a moratorium on the development of shale gas, for example. And so we need to be real pro-market and be able to develop natural resources. To do that, we need to withdraw from the Paris Accord. But Poilievre is okay with that. Poilievre, I must admit, he won't impose a carbon tax to Canadian consumers, but he will impose more regulation on businesses. He will give subsidies to the green industry because, he will do everything to achieve the Paris Accord targets. We won't. We will withdraw from that like President Trump. So, yes, we need to have that big, and bold reforms at the federal level to be sure to have a smaller government being able to lower taxes and be giving more money in pockets of families.
How do you, because when I watch how he manages the relationship with President Trump, and you see President Trump saying what he's saying about, Mark Carney, and yeah. how are you able to manage working with the president when the president is saying Canada 51st state? Are you at all even open to the idea of Canada 51st state, or that's just he's just toying with you? That's kind of how you view it. But what is your approach on, let's just say you end up becoming a prime minister? What is your approach going to be on dealing with President Trump?
I'm not open to the 51st state. I'm doing like Trump in Canada. I'm fighting for Canadians and for the sovereignty of our country. I'm putting my people first. So the way to deal with President Trump, it's, you need to, right now, we have a free trade agreement between us, the U.S., and Mexico. And that will have to be reopened in 2026. We need to reopen that free trade agreement right now, and we need to put everything on the table. For example, President Trump is the one who negotiated the free trade agreement when he was president at his first term, and he wanted for your dairy producers to be able for them to export their milk in Canada. But because we have a cartel, a system called the supply management, our dairy, poultry, and eggs producers are producing only for the Canadian market. They cannot export, and they are fixing the price. They call that supply management. It's a legal cartel. So, and Trump was not so happy at the last negotiation because, we said, no, we want, we have to protect the cartel, and we want open our borders to your milk, cheese, and eggs. So we need to put that on the table. But Poilievre and Trudeau, they want to protect the cartel. They're very influential. Actually, they did buy membership cards of the Conservative Party of Canada when I was running to be the leader, to be sure that I won't win, because I said at that time, 10 years ago, we need to abolish that cartel, and it will be good for Canadian consumers because we are paying twice the price if we compare that price with prices in the US for milk, poultry, and eggs because of that cartel. So let's put that on the table. I'm the only one who's saying that. We will be able to have a good deal. And Trump said, if you're imposing tariff, I will impose tariff. If you withdraw your tariff, I will do the same. I believe in free trade. Let's do a real free trade. But right now, there's 300% tariffs on the milk, and you cannot export your milk in Canada because you won't be competitive with that tariff of 300%. But it's not only with milk, it's a lot of other products. We don't have a free trade between Canada and US. We have a managed trade. Trump wants to have, a fair relationship. Let's abolish all these tariffs. It will be good for us and good for you. So first, put everything on the table. Be sure to reinvest to protect our borders. Be sure to reinvest also in our own defense. We are not doing that. We need to at least spend 2% of our GDP in our defense. We're not doing that. It's maybe 1.2% or something like that. We need also to have a new defense relationship with the U.S. And, Trump is a little bit concerned about the north, our border in the north with Russia, and the Arctic. We need to be sure we don't have a base over there as Canadians. So we need to reinvest there. We need to protect and have a new agreement, defense agreement with you guys, so we can do that. If we do that, I'm pretty sure that we'll have a good deal. When Trump is speaking about, Governor Trudeau, 51st state, for me, it won't happen. It's not serious. But what I understand also, he wants to bring back manufacturing industry in the U.S., including, businesses from Canada. So what we have to do as a country, we need to have, economic policies that will be more competitive. So our, income tax on business is too high. So let's let the free market decide, but I want to compete with the U.S. and I want our businesses to be able to compete with you guys, but now they're not able. That's why there's tariffs. So we need to lower tax on business, cut capital gains tax, less regulation, and like that's the only way to build our country and to be competitive.
So with regards to him getting closer to Carney, when he's talking about coming to tariffs, what are Canadians saying that Mark did to get Trump to feel more comfortable doing a deal with him than with Pierre? Why is he feeling more comfortable with Mark instead of Poilievre?
I think because first, Poilievre is speaking about, a bigger trade war with the U.S. Poilievre is the first one who said, we must impose dollar for dollar tariffs. And now Carney is going away from that. Carney and the Liberals did impose 25% tariffs on us, on Canadians. Don't forget the 25% tariffs that Trump is imposing right now. It's on American businesses and American consumers. They're the one who will pay for that. Our products will be less competitive, but at the end, that's American consumers who are paying for that. So what we did, counter tariffs, 25%, and that was a bad idea. I was the only leader to say, you must not impose that. We cannot win a trade war with the U.S., and that will be our consumers, Canadian businesses and Canadians consumers who will pay for that. It's another tax on Canadians. So Carney did impose that with the Liberals. But Carney said recently, I won't go dollar for dollar because he said what I'm saying right now, and what I said before, we cannot compete against the U.S. in a trade war. But Poilievre is more, is more against Trudeau, not Trudeau, but Trump, and he wants to go ahead and impose more tariffs. So maybe that's why also Trump doesn't like him.
And isn't Mark's background was he with the Bank of London? Who was he with?
Oh,
he had a financial background, right? Goldman. Okay, there's Goldman Sachs, Bank of Canada. So he knows how to make deals. So maybe Trump feels more comfortable talking to a business guy than a guy that's a career politician like
absolutely.
Pierre.
Yeah, you have a point there.
Got it. That's interesting. So,
but also, Carney is the globalist in chief. Carney was the special envoy for the UN on climate action and finance. So Carney is a big believer in climate change. And he's a big globalist also. We must admit that. But yes, he was in the private sector. He's a business guy. So maybe Trump think that he will be able to have a better deal with a guy that knows business.
Does Pierre have a history of being able to make deals and be a diplomat and negotiate with others and get people from across the aisle to want to talk to him and get deals done, or no?
No,
what is his biggest accomplishment? What's Pierre's biggest accomplishment?
He was a junior. Can you put that on, Pierre Poilievre? And you see, he was a junior minister in the Harper government. I was industry minister, foreign affairs minister. I was dealing with Condoleezza Rice at that time. And Poilievre was a junior minister. You know, look at it. Canadian... he was minister for...
Do you see it, Robert? No.
No.
Junior minister under President Stephen Harper.
Okay. Minister for democratic reform, employment. You know, he had a little and junior portfolio. So he was not foreign affairs. He was not industry minister, big portfolio. He was not finance minister.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out what is his biggest accomplishment. Why is he loved by his party, respected the way he is?
Because when he did campaign for the leadership of the Conservative Party, he was speaking like a real conservative, and he was very popular, you know, on social media. He's very good to do little videos, and you know, so he was very popular there. And they thought that Poilievre is a real conservative, and now they're very disappointed. So.
Got it. Yeah, I just typed it up. It says, becoming a leader of the Conservative Party, 2022, 68%. Opposition to carbon tax, advocating for economy and housing reform. His axe the tax and build more homes.
Yeah, but axe the tax, it's funny because the Liberals and Carney said, okay, we will axe the tax. Poilievre did ask for an election based on the carbon tax, axe the tax. He wanted that the main subject during the campaign must be axe the carbon tax. But now Carney said he did it. Carney said, you know, the carbon tax won't exist for Canadian consumers. And I'm saying, you know, no more taxes, no more regulation. We must withdraw from the Paris Accord. I'm the only one. But the election must be on immigration, like you just show us, you know, everything that this country will be destroyed by mass immigration. And that must be the subject of the campaign.
So, you know, when President Trump talks about 51st state, making Canada the 51st state, I sit there at first, I'm like, is he trolling? Is he serious? Is he playing? Is he trying to get under your skin? Is he trying to make you upset?
Under your skin, yes.
Let's just say he is, right? And then I sit there and I, don't put the tariffs. It's not fair to this. It's not fair to that. And you go to military expenditure. You said it earlier a minute ago. Canada's military expenditure is 1.2, 1.3%. Nothing, right? Mexico
and we have a woke. That's a woke Canadian forces. You know, they're promoting because of the color of your skin and your sexual orientation. The leadership of the Canadian forces is woke right now.
Who is that? Who is the leader at the top? That's woke.
But it's a lady. That was a lady a couple of years ago. I don't know who is it, but they're woke. You know, they're promoting wokeism in that organization. The lady before... now it's a guy, but...
Janine Carrigan, is that one?
Yeah, and she's still there. I think she...
Is this the one? Jenny?
Yeah.
Jenny, so she was... first one lady...
She's the current chief defense, and then she was appointed, the first woman there. She's there because she's a lady. That's it, you know.
She's there because she's a lady.
Oh, for sure, you know.
And so, but what do you do? So...
You reform the leadership of the Canadian forces first, and you reinvest in our defense.
How weak is your military? You don't have. I mean, Canada's not known for military, right?
No, you know, I was foreign affairs minister when we had that war in Afghanistan, and you know, I traveled in Europe to ask my counterparts, other foreign affairs minister, please help us in Afghanistan. We don't have any resources. We need more, planes. We need help in Afghanistan. And so we were, asking for help in Europe and other countries to be sure to be at least efficient in Afghanistan. So no, we don't have. We're a very weak Canadian forces.
You're ranked as 28. You're behind countries like Algeria, Thailand, Singapore. Greece is right next to you, meaning they're ranked 30th. Singapore's 29th.
We cannot
Thailand's
defend
25th.
ourselves.
So can I say so? So if when I hear that, you know what it makes me think about? It upsets me because it makes me think about that Canada, just because they're neighbors with America and America is so strong in military, they don't need to invest into the military. So guess what? No one's going to attack us because America's our neighbor. They're not going to mess with us. So that causes me, if I'm Trump, to say, yeah, that's why you're going to become the 51st state. Or I'm going to put tariffs on you. So I'm actually really curious to know how the negotiation is going to go with Trump the next 3, 6, 12 months. Because if everything you guys produce, if we can make in America and bring those jobs back, and he puts his foot down and Mark, Pierre, somebody fumbles, this could be catastrophic for Canadians. Absolutely catastrophic for Canadians.
But that's why I'm saying we are the last hope for this country. We have the right economic policies. I think I know what we can do to have a good deal with Trump, but he's right about that. We are taking for granted our defense. We are saying, the U.S. is there. Let's not, we need to be serious about that. And I said that I don't know how many times, but it is time to be serious. And that's why we need to cut all these programs. We are giving money in other countries to promote woke ideology, the trans ideology. We are spending money that, first of all, we don't have with our deficit. So let's be serious. And, I'm honest. I'm telling Canadians, yes, we have to cut the budget. We will be able to do that. It can be, difficult, but let's do it if we want to go ahead and have prosperity in Canada.
I just had a conversation with Ron Paul, like right before you. Ron Paul and I did a 1-hour podcast together.
Oh, that's great. I had the privilege to have a dinner with Ron Paul when I was in Parliament. He came in Ottawa.
He's
great
amazing.
guy. Great guy.
He's phenomenal, yeah. And, when you ask him, what is it to be a libertarian? Boom, 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 boom. You ask, what is it to be an American? I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free, right?
Yeah.
And then you can sell America, right? Yeah. What does it mean to be a Canadian?
We are not American.
What does that mean, though? But not. What are you guys? What is Canadian?
That's what maybe Canadians, we are not American, we are Canadians. So, okay, if we are not American, we are, more for social programs. We care a little bit more about people. We have a socialist policies in Canada. So we have, the way that the federal government or our politicians are speaking about Canadian identity, they're speaking about the legislation. It's, we have, our health care system is good. It's not like the U.S. It's not a private healthcare system. Everybody, has a protection, but it's not going well. Here you have, privatization at least 100%. In Canada, it's socialism there. So they are describing us based on social program. The reality is we are different because this country, Canada, is different. We have different culture. The culture in Quebec, in my own province, is very different than the culture in Alberta. The culture in Alberta is very different than the culture in PI. That's a country that we are the only country like that.
What is it to be a Canadian? I still don't know what it is to be a Canadian. What is it to be a Canadian?
What it is to be a Canadian, we, like you, we believe in freedom. We believe in less government and more autonomy. We believe that if you're a Canadian, you have the opportunity to grow and to do what you want in life. And now it's not the case anymore. We have the big fat government that is taxing us and regulating us all the time. So to be a Canadian is to be a free man, that we can do what we want. But right now it's not the case anymore. And with mass immigration, we need to know our history. And the majority of Canadians don't know the history of our country. These new immigrants, they're telling me that, I'm an immigrant also. No, my roots are, coming from at least 300 years. I'm a settler. I'm coming from France and in Quebec, and same thing for people coming from Europe, in Canada. We need to speak about our country. We are not, but we have different cultures, and that's, the Francophone part of Canada is the only place in North America that you have a Francophone government, majority of Francophone, try to speak French and be prosperous. So,
who's your hero? Who are Canadians' heroes? If you give me 3 heroes, like when I was in Brazil and I'm talking to Jair Bolsonaro, you would hear Senna, you would hear Pele, you would hear Jair Bolsonaro, and you would hear different names, right? Who are, of course, you may say Gretzky, but who are some heroes in Canada? Top 3.
Laurier, Wilfrid Laurier, in the beginning of our confederation, was the Prime Minister from Quebec. And, he was for free trades, and he was very for a smaller government. He was a liberal, but a classical liberal. And also, if you speak about sport, Maurice Richard was a big, Canadian, French-Canadian hockey players with the Montreal Canadiens. If you speak about music, Céline Dion, she's very well known. And, personally, I'm not a fan of her music, but, I'm proud that she's successful around the globe. But
Leonard Cohen is Canadian. Leonard Cohen is Canadian.
Yeah. No, we have a great, Francophone, Anglophone culture, but actually we have a very bad government.
Yeah, and so a part of that with the culture, the stronger the culture is, the more pride there is to protect it. The weaker the culture is, the more it allows President Trump to come in and say, hey, if you guys are not that proud to be Canadians, why don't you become American? I can see how he's doing that now. But let me ask you this question, because, a lot of times you'll hear, well, we're independent from UK. We're independent from UK. We're independent from UK. We're independent. We're
from
independent.
France,
I'm sorry, from France. We're independent.
And UK.
You're right, with those guys. But then your Carney just went and sat down with the king, right? Didn't that just happen? I think sometime did that just happen a week ago, right?
He was in Europe. He was in UK.
Why is it that, even though it's like, no, we are our own, but let us go and meet with King Charles after Trump threats? It was kind of like, hey, King Charles, can you protect us from Trump because Trump is doing this? Yeah, we're not part of UK, but hey, we kind of need because he's trying to bully us. Why is that? It's like because the impression to me is like you're running to daddy to protect from a bully. Is that the wrong impression or the right impression?
No, I think he went there, to try to have, our economy is 75% dependent on you guys. We are exporting. As you know, you have a trade deficit with us. The majority of the trade deficit is coming because of oil and gas first. If you don't put that in the equation, you won't have a trade deficit with us. So it's coming because of oil and gas. So I believe what he tried to do is to be sure to be able to have maybe a free trade agreement with Europe or with UK. Actually, we tried to have a free trade agreement with UK a year ago. That free trade agreement didn't work because of what? The cartel. The Canadian government said we have to protect the cartel, and the UK said we want to export the Stilton in Canada. Because of cheese, we were not able to have a free trade agreement. And now they're saying, now we need to look at, having more, opportunities for our businesses, and let's go and try to sign free trade agreements with Europe and other countries and UK.
Yeah, when I see that, how does Canada look at Canadians? How do Canadians look at UK and France? Is it friendly? What's the relationship there?
It's a friendly one, actually. Yes, but the reality is we are in North America. We need to have good relationship with you guys.
I fully agree.
That's the basic. We cannot go we cannot be, and with the multipolar world right now, with China, Russia, BRICS countries, so we are with you guys, and we need to just have a good deal with you that will be good for you and for us. Yes, we can try to have other free trade agreement and, being less dependent on your market. But in fact, it's easier now for business people to export to the U.S. than to trade across the country. So we need to fix that, like I said. But let's have a deal and put everything on the table and have a real free trade. And Trump said, you put tariff, I'll put tariff. You withdraw from tariff, I will do the same. So let's do it. Let's be serious. There's a lot of tariffs that we are imposing to you guys. Let's put that on the table, please.
Is Carney putting that on the table right now?
No. Carney and Poilievre are not putting the cartel on the table. And, Trump did win all the swing states, including Wisconsin. Your dairy producers are in Wisconsin, They want to export to Canada. And Trump is listening to them. And we are saying, and we said to Trump at the first free trade agreement that we signed together, no. But now he's coming back, and he's serious about that. But for our establishment politicians, oh no, Trump is tweeting about that, but that's not serious. That is serious. If we want to have a deal, we need to put that on the table. If not, we won't have a deal.
Justin Trudeau, right? I mean, we haven't even talked about him yet. Justin Trudeau, have you had any interactions with him? Have you? How different is he behind closed doors than he is when the camera's on? Or is it the same person?
I had a dinner with him maybe 2 times when I was in Parliament. I was in government, he was in the opposition. And at that time, we had a dinner and he said, Maxime, a day you're going to be the leader of the Conservative Party. One day, and one day I'll be the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. So, and that was maybe in 2009, 2010. And this guy, is funny, is a good communicator, a good actor. He can cry on demand. I cannot do that, but he can.
He just did that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he can. But, there's nothing there. He's empty. You'll have a beer with him. He will chat and about, culture and sport and things like that. But, does this guy, what he did for the country, he did destroy our country in 9 years. And so it's immigration, the economy, the growth of our GDP is going down, and GDP per capita, like I said. So personally, we had a nice dinner, chit-chat, but no, the guy is a little bit also full of himself, and he's that publicly, privately also. He think that, he's running on the name of his dad. His dad was very well known, and I said it, this guy was elected the leader of the Liberal Party because of his name, Trudeau, and his dad, and also his look. He was young, and but now people realize, and that's why I believe that the Liberal, it would be very tough for them with Carney to be reelected because of that record from
What
Trudeau.
was his father known for?
His father was known for starting the multiculturalism in Canada. He's the one who, and he did that to try to, when his father was in power, we had a separatist movement in Canada. You had René Lévesque at that time, and we had a referendum on the independence of Quebec. And the way to fight that was with multiculturalism. So Trudeau said there's no two funding a nation, Quebec, Anglophone and Francophone, and he tried, and that was the beginning of multiculturalism, and Trudeau put that at the extreme. So he was well known also to fight the separatists in Quebec. He was well known also to fight Western Canadians and being against the oil and gas industry at that time also. So Trudeau was a real socialist, actually, yeah.
His father was a true socialist.
Trudeau father, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right there. Liberalized divorce, abortion, homosexuality in 1967 as minister. So now with the current state of things, I looked at the numbers. I called a couple different guys, and one of the fellows I talked to, let me see here. Okay, he asked to stay anonymous, but you know who he is. Yeah. I asked him, I said, so what's the difference between Pierre and Max? Yeah. I'm curious to know what he's going to be saying. if I say who this person is, he was
I don't
involved
want
in
you to know. I don't
politics. No,
want
what
you
I'm saying is, you know who it is. He says, short answer, Pierre will be prime minister. Max probably won't even win his own seat. But more fundamentally, Max is a true libertarian and has always been. Pierre is a true blue conservative. Do you agree with him? On the politics at the end, the libertarian and the true blue conservative.
Well, Pierre, no, is a red Tory. He's not a blue conservative. Look at his policy. He's a red Tory, like a liberal. I said climate change. I said immigration. I said, the war in Ukraine. Also, Poilievre is for the war in Ukraine. Right now, he said, Canada must help Ukraine. And Trump is trying to have a peace deal over there. So we are the only one who said that. About, I'm saying that Trudeau won't win. But, we are a small political party right now in Canada, but our growth is going very well. And maybe I won't be prime minister at this election, but I may be prime minister at the next one in 2029 because we're doing politics on the long term and our ideas are becoming more and more popular. But, on economy, I can be a libertarian for sure. But I'm a real conservative. Family values, faith, less regulation, more freedom. I'm the only one who did fight for freedom of choice during the COVID hysteria in Canada. We had lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, vaccine passport. Poilievre was okay with that. If you're a real conservative, you must fight that. You must fight for individual freedom. Poilievre was not fighting for individual freedom. I was. So, we are like a little bit the Reform Party in UK with Nigel Farage. Nigel, at the last election, he had only 15% of the vote. He was able to elect 6 MPs, 6 candidates. And now, after a year after that election, Nigel is ahead in the polls with the Reform Party. And the Reform Party, it's about the same platform of our political party, the People's Party. So what I'm telling you, the growth can come, but because of our parliamentary system, it's a little bit more difficult for us. There's no proportionality in our electoral system. It's not like in France or other country where you have proportionality in your electoral system. We don't. It's a parliamentary system. So it's more difficult to have seat, but we will.
It's interesting because when I asked the polls, how big is the People Party of Canada? Roughly 4.9% is what I see. 5% is what I see. 5%.
That's the score that we had at the last election.
Okay.
So my goal for this election is to double that.
Okay.
So if we double that to 10, we may have a couple of candidates elected, but our goal is to push, the government that would be elected in the right direction, to promote our ideas, to change the public opinion. And, we were successful on immigration. Now, our challenge is the mainstream media is not speaking about us. They know that if we have more visibility, we will grow faster. And like I said in the beginning, they're leftists. They don't want to. That's why, I'm doing podcasts, and I want to thank you for it.
I love that. I respect that a lot. But I'm going somewhere with this. If you can show the poll I ran. I ran a poll. This is March 7th. Say 10 days ago, 13 days ago.
Yeah.
Who is a better candidate for Prime Minister Canada? You had 34%. He had 51%.
Yeah.
And if you go a little lower in the comment section, Rob, just to kind of see these two party of choice. Okay, how are you not seeing up here as just another globalist uniparty who deserves to slither away and never be heard from again? I don't know who this person is. Rachel Caroline Pla. I'm just trying to see how the audience responds. The PPTC and Max needs to be the party of our choice to remotely start to heal from the years of government abuse. Maxime Bernier, no contest. I mean, if you go through the comment section, you have a lot of people that want you to, be up there and get the attention. You have a big support from the audience with Canada. Yeah. What do you think needs to happen? And by the way, in Canada, is it similar to Brazil, where Pierre, if it gets to it to win, he's going to need you to beat Carney, or no? Is that how it works? But you got to kind of get in there to help him out, or no?
No, if like Trudeau didn't have a majority government. He had a majority in 2015, but now that's a minority government. So they had a coalition with the NDP. And so if Poilievre doesn't have a majority, he will need to do a coalition. So we can have a couple of MPs there and be and doing that deal with Poilievre for sure. But we won't merge with the Conservative Party because the Conservative Party is not conservative anymore. So that's the big problem. Look at every issues. They are not. They are afraid to speak about conservative values. You know, everything that Trump did, you know, working against the woke ideology, there's only two sexes. Poilievre won't say that.
He won't say that?
He said, I must admit, he said that there's two genders. But after that, the journalist did ask, you know, if you applied for your Canadian passport, Mr. Poilievre, you have male, female, and X. Are you going to have only male and female for the application? And he didn't want to answer that question. So he said, no, the preoccupation is the economy, stupid. So for him, you know, wokeism and the trans ideology, it's not important. For me, it's important. It's unfair. And DI, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need to change that. We need to have, you know, unity or, you know, promoting, you know, meritocracy and not inclusion. But Poilievre won't go there. Poilievre is not doing the cultural war. That's why people are mad at it. Trump is doing that in the U.S. I'm doing that in Canada.
That's such a, if that's the case, that's such a lame and weak position. I mean, look at this here from January, Polymarket. Look what Pierre was. Okay, go to January, Rob, if you could. Can you zoom it all the way back? No, the way where you were right there. Zoom in a little bit. Pierre, according to Polymarket, was at 90%. Carney was at 12%.
That was at that time Trudeau. Okay, but Carney.
Oh, Trudeau's there as well, 3.6% to win. Rob, is that what you're running? And then now, if you come to today, Polymarket says what? He went from 91 to 41. Is this really true that he's dropped 50 points of popularity?
Yeah, right now in the poll, Carney have an advantage.
That is what happened for him to drop 50 points?
Because his branding was to be against Trudeau. And, you know, and he didn't put out their policies. And that's Harper. Harper told him, you know, you are the leader of the opposition. Your role is to oppose everything that Trudeau is doing. Don't go out there with policies first, because if they're good, the Liberal will steal it and run on your policies. And second, you know, if they're not good, they will destroy you. So don't run on any policies, just be against. So now the problem is Trudeau is not there anymore. So you have a new leader. And so his branding is against Trudeau. And now you have Trump. And now, you know, people want to have somebody that will fight Trump. And he's not that guy. He doesn't have, you know, any private sector experience. And also, don't forget the media also. The mainstream media did promote Poilievre. I told you, they're not Poilievre, sorry, Carney. They did promote him.
Yeah,
so,
but that's Pierre's fault for not wanting to go and talk to other people. He just, you know,
he cannot right now because it's empty slogan. He doesn't have any platform, so he cannot have a discussion.
I hope he does.
He will have a platform during the campaign, but it's a little bit late. And, you know, it's all about, you know, he believes that if you want to win an election, you need to have good coverage from the mainstream media. And said, forget the mainstream media. So when he's doing a press conference, it's all about, you know, he's speaking like, you know, by slogan and with no details because he doesn't want to give details. Poilievre doesn't know what he believes in right now. He will know when just before the election when he will do poll and focus group. So that's why I said he's a follower. He's following the public opinion that has been manipulated by the leftist media. He's not leading. And now you can show that. That's why it's happening. People want a leader with ideas. And Poilievre is not out there.
Rob, is this updated as of today, March 20th?
Yep, it says up in the top corner,
and this
March
is
20th.
Polymarket.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing. Can you go to another... Go to Vegas odds. Can you just go to Vegas odds to see what Vegas odds are saying about Prime Minister in Canada? Canadian Prime... Yeah. What's Vegas odds saying, 2025? Are they doing anything or no? They
did, I think.
Vegas odds. Oh man, that is just absolutely embarrassing. Next prime. Okay, there's one here. Yeah, Polymarket. That's the one. So, yeah, I mean, you're on the one. That was the one, Rob.
Yeah.
that
No,
Sauce just sent. Wow,
you
that's
can go also 338 Canada.
338 Canada?
Yeah, 338.
I'm on it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna tell you by seats. So which one will have more seats? And right now they're saying the Liberals will have more seats than the Conservative. Yeah, so
178, 130.
yeah, and to have a majority, you need 162 seats.
So right now he's behind by 32.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, the Liberals are very popular in Quebec. They have a lot of seats there. In Ontario, and Poilievre is popular out west.
Okay, so I have a CEO of a major insurance company in Canada. And here's what he sent me to ask. His question was, will you commit resources to lifting interprovincial trade barriers?
Yes, I said that 10 years ago. Absolutely. And you know what? The federal government can do that. You know, it's in our constitution. That is under the responsibility and the jurisdiction of the federal government. You know, we need to have real internal trade and free trade across the country. And yes, you can do that. You use the Constitution to be sure to have that after 150 years, we still don't have an economic union in Canada. But the good news is the government of Nova Scotia, two weeks ago, they said, okay, we will have a new legislation, no more trade barriers in our province, and that's an incentive for other provinces to do that also. You know, we are welcoming goods coming from other provinces, and they were the first one to do that. So I hope that other provinces will follow. If not, the federal government can push that and use the power that we have in the Constitution to do it.
That's very important because to us, it may not be a big deal in America. We don't know what that means, right? But over there, it's kind of like being an EU and, you know, you're trying to do business and it's a little bit complicated.
It's easier for a business in New Brunswick to sell goods in Maine than it is to sell that in Quebec. So we need to abolish all that.
That's crazy, yeah.
That's the reality.
Well, Max, I'm going to give you final thoughts. This has been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you for coming out.
Thank you.
I love your energy. For the audience that's watching this, he lands last night, and this morning you ran 12K?
Yeah, 12.
12K this morning prior to coming to the meeting. And we had a great conversation about Doug Flutie because he used to play football back in the days. And Doug Flutie was a Canadian. You know, he went from Boston College to play quarterback. Final thoughts to Americans and Canadians that may be listening to this.
Yeah, I'm telling to Americans, we won't be the 51st state. Just understand that. We love you, and we can have a better relationship. And I understand Trump, and I'm ready to work with your president to be sure that, you know, we will do what is right to protect your own security by protecting our own security in Canada.
Respect. Maxime, this has been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming out. It's been fantastic.
That was fun.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright.